Welcome back. My next guest is probably best known for his role as Petroni, the gritty pilot in the classic Airport series. Yet, he never won an Academy Award for that. By that time, he already had an Oscar to his credit, that of the sadistic chain gang prisoner in Cool Hand Luke. Here's George Kennedy. Hi, George. Nice to see you again.
Should I call you Phil, Will?
Bill.
Martha?
This is my big-time breaker.
They told me Linda Evans was going to do this. I'm a little disappointed.
Oh, yeah. But it is good to see you again. Last time I saw you was when you just wrapped up Airport number 4, the Concorde. Was that the last in the series?
Well, that was the last of the airports. Then Howard Koch and the Paramount people have been doing a number of the airplane movies. I think the second one of which is out now.
Well, Airplane was a spoof on the airport films. Did you go see it? First one?
I saw the first one. I haven't seen the second one, and I thought it was delightful. A spoof on the airport movies, because the airport movies, if you were to take all 4 of the airport movies and shuffle them all together, you could probably go into a cutting room and come out with 4 separate movies. It is just an enjoyable type of film that people, they know what's going to happen. You just change the faces around.
And that didn't bother you to take that Petroni character and go with it for 4 films? You ever
No, I enjoy that. Truthfully, I don't know of a single airplane that I've been on in years where somebody hasn't come back and said, if we get stuck, will you come up and help us?
Oh.
And I enjoy it.
You won your Oscar for your portrayal in Cool Hand Luke with Paul Newman. And Paul Newman recently was on the cover of Newsweek. There's a new documentary out about him. And you worked closely with him on that film. You told me earlier that Cool Hand Luke was a film for you that sticks out in your mind most of any picture you did.
Well, there's a number of things. Off screen, you and I were talking about Gunsmokes and a mutual friend, Hal Needham, and Cool Hand Luke. Your career sometimes, and even Betty Davis, who is just on, for whom I have the greatest of admiration. Your career is like a stepladder. As long as you don't miss any of the rungs, and as long as you don't take any of the rungs for granted, you will go from one rung to another. Sometimes you get there a little faster than others. Well, in my case, there was a couple of Gunsmokes that led to this, led to that. But in no case had I ever been one of the 2 principal performers of a film, as I was with Paul, and I'm not trying to be impertinent. Paul was the star, but quite literally I shared half of a film with Paul Newman, and as it turned out, there was an Academy Award in the offing. But if you think, or the audience thinks for a second, that I didn't take what I was doing while we were shooting Cool Hand Luke very seriously, it'd be foolishness on your part. I worked like a dog, and so did he. I think he works like a dog all the time.
Yeah, in the Newsweek article, they asked him about each film he did, and he gave his opinion. And some he said worked hard, others he said didn't care about it. But he did the same thing with Cool Hand Luke.
Yeah, he liked the guy. He liked Luke. He liked the character. I think. I've never asked Paul this, but I think our biggest fear about Cool Hand Luke is that people wouldn't see it. Not that people don't go to see Newman movies. Newman movies are very important movies. They always have been, and they will be as long as, he keeps making them. But our budget was really minuscule. I think the last day that we shot Cool Hand Luke was the end of the first day of shooting of Camelot, and their budget at the end of the first day of shooting was more than our entire picture, not for just a day, but for their sets and everything else. They'd already spent more money on one day than we had in an entire film. Well, money is the name of the game in films. You could make a terrific film, but unless you publicize it correctly, people just simply aren't going to see it. So I think that was our biggest fear.
Did you ever imagine you'd get an Oscar out of it?
No, not while we were shooting. All I knew is that here I had been given quite a golden opportunity to do something I'd never been given the opportunity to do before. And just don't mess it up. There's a rule there for life, by the way. But quite literally, it wasn't until there's an expression that they use in Hollywood about the Bel Air circuit. The Bel Air circuit doesn't go down and pay $5 at the window of your local cinema. They see the movies in their homes. Well, the word was that I had done quite an important thing in the film, and people, Jack Lemmon and others, would seek me out and say, hey, you were just marvelous in that. Well, when that happens often enough, you begin to realize, hey, well, somebody's paying attention.
What about the documentary they did on Paul Newman?
Now, I haven't seen that. It airs locally here Saturday, but it's a retrospective, if you will, in a half an hour, I think, of a great many of the films. And I will say, just as surely as I would say to you if we were off camera, I think Paul is probably a better actor than even he thinks he is. The big hoo-ha at the moment is for how good he is in The Verdict, but the reality of it is there really wasn't a better performance last year than his in Absence of Malice. Now, mind you, Henry Fonda won, and deservedly so, and I voted for him too. But what I'm saying is there really wasn't a better performance. So all I'm getting around to is that Newman delivers all of the time. And I don't even think he's a very big family man. He loves his auto racing. I don't even think he knows how good he is.
That might be the secret of it.
Yeah, well, I know he works very hard.
We, by the way, have a montage of some of Paul Newman's work. Most certainly we don't have it all. We'll take a little look at that. I guess this is a piece from the documentary, right, Eddie? Yeah. Okay, here's a look at just some of the things in the documentary about Paul Newman.
Fats, let you and I shoot a game of straight pool. $100? Well, you shoot big-time pool, Fats. I mean, that's what everybody says, you shoot big-time pool. Let's make it $200 a game.
I'll jump first.
No. Then you jump first.
No, I said.
What's the matter with you?
I can't swim!
Why, are you crazy? The fall will probably kill you. I can eat 50 eggs.
Nobody can eat 50 eggs.
Cool Hand Luke was a 1967 triumph for Paul Newman as he combined humor and high drama in a single stroke and a single unforgettable character.
Just like a ripe watermelon was about to bust itself open. Your boy's done for, Frank. I'm putting him in my last.
Paul has the capacity for bloating out his stomach. And so in the latter portions of the egg-eating scene, when he had his belly distended as though he'd eaten 50 eggs, it was marvelously right for that moment.
He's going to make himself sick right now. Is he?
After his mother's death, and he doesn't know how to show his grief, so he plays the banjo. And it was very difficult for him to do. The frustration of knowing that he wasn't doing the banjo picking as well as he, Paul Newman, would like to do the banjo picking, got a rage and a frustration coming out of him that showed on the screen, because that's the shot that was printed. And when it was over, Paul says, "I can do a better one," and Rosenberg says, "Nobody can do a better one," and he was right.
How many eggs did he actually eat in that scene, or did he eat any?
Oh, no, he probably consumed in 3 days. It took us 3 days to shoot that. He probably ate something like 8 eggs. But I tell you something, hard-boiled eggs smell marvelous on a soundstage the first day, but by the third day, you don't want to hear about it.
You ever get tired of playing the heavy? I mean, you're such a nice guy off camera, and I know you've played nice guys occasionally, but people associate you with the tough guy all the time.
I think, I would answer the question the way Betty Davis or Jimmy Stewart would answer it, because the reality of it is you play what's written well. You don't always get that lovely circumstance. Ideally, you would play bad or good guy. That doesn't make any difference. If it is written well, the actor, Olivier, can't read the phone book really any better than you can. The written word is what it is. It doesn't matter if he's a good guy or a bad guy.
We talked earlier about Hal Needham. In case the name isn't familiar to a lot of folks, he's a gentleman that has directed the Smokey and the Bandit series and Cannonball Run. He heads up Stunts Unlimited. That's the name of his company, right? Mm-hmm. And he's probably the best stuntman in Hollywood, and he's gone on to other things as a director. You worked with him back in your Western days, and you were telling me about some of the stunts you used to do with Hal.
But never on purpose. Hal's an old friend, and I enjoy his friendship, and I have for 20-some-odd years. But in the old days, Hal was the stuntman on Gunsmoke, Have Gun Will Travel, and all of those things. And they would always put me on a horse. Now, if there's one thing I do beautifully, it is not riding a horse. So what would happen is I would fall off 12 or 13 times in a picture. And at one point, Hal came over when I was laying there and the horse was going off somewhere, and Hal said, "You stay out of our business, and we'll stay out of yours."
We hope you can stay with us for a little bit. Okay.
You got Kathy Silver's coming up.
Right, yeah, there's somebody you know.
Her father was, she's a delight, but her father was quite literally my mentor, and I admire him and respect him very much.
Well, I hope you can stick around and talk with Kathy and myself a little bit longer.